Hello, fifth grade artists. Wow, I am so excited to see you. I have loved seeing your Bitmoji use pictures if you've shared those with me and reading about in your Google form what you did with your Bitmoji U. And today we are starting a 3-week lesson inspired by the artist Gustav Klimt, and who is a historical artist, I will say. And we will also be taking a look at a contemporary artist. That means she's currently living and making art right now, whose name is Lena Iris Viktor. And they kind of remind me of each other. Like the art feels similar to me in some ways. And so we're going to be using these artists to learn about line and shape, and to be making some art inspired by one or both of these artists. Okay. So right now, hold on, let me close the window. That's better. Some sort of fire siren out there. So right now you're watching a video where I introduce to you what you're gonna be doing in the art lesson. And then after you watch this short video, you'll go to the art lesson, you'll go through the slides, you'll be able to take a look at them in more detail. All right, so today when you get to those slides, you're going to review line and shape, you're going to analyze art by Gustav Klimt and Lena Viktor, and then you're going to be drawing some lines and shapes, practicing line and shape in your journal, and you're going to think, reflect, and record your answers in a Google form. And so today you need a pencil and your art journal. Okay, so elements of art. We've been learning about the elements of art for many years now with me. Whoops, went to the wrong page. There are 7 elements of art. And artists use these elements to create their art. So line, shape, form, space, color, value, and texture. We're going to be focusing on line and shape for this first project. So let's talk a little bit about line. One way that artists can make art is with lines. They can draw lines or paint lines or scratch lines or collage lines. There are lots of different ways that they can make lines in their art. And there are also lots of different lines that they can make. And so down here, you should see some familiar lines that we've been practicing in the art room. Then you're going to review what you know about lines by watching one or both of these videos. So the Scratch Garden line song, and or the KQED. I love this one because they show how different artists use lines in different ways. So this is great for reviewing the different kinds of lines that there are, and this one's great for taking a look at how artists use lines in their work. Another way artists can make art is with shapes. They can draw shapes or paint shapes or cut out shapes and collage shapes. There are lots of different ways that they can create art with shapes and lots of different shapes that they can use and create. And I'll go into this in more detail in just a little bit, but remember in art there are basically 2 kinds of shapes, geometric and organic. And so geometric shapes are shapes that we know the names of, like squares and ovals, and organic shapes are shapes that we might find in nature. If you say it looks like a leaf, or it looks like a cloud, or it looks like a heart. Oh, speaking of hearts, sometimes in art, it could be both geometric or organic depending on how it's drawn. After you take a look at that slide about the different kinds of shapes, you're going to watch 1 or 2 videos about shape. Again, this is a good basic introduction video, the Robot Art School, to give you more information about shapes. And this one gives you information about shapes, but also shows how artists use shape in their work. Then you'll be ready to practice drawing some lines or shapes with me. So you'll grab your pencil and your trusty art journal, and you'll go to this next slide where I'll walk you through how to set up your art journal, and we'll practice drawing some lines and shapes. And I go pretty fast in this, so please feel free to pause it to catch up with what I'm doing in the video. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Gustav Klimt. Gustav Klimt was born in Vienna, Austria in 1862. He died in 1918. He was the second of 7 children from the parents Anna and Ernst Klimt. His father, Ernst, was a gold engraver. And you'll often see a lot of his paintings have a lot of gold in them. So he was definitely inspired by growing up with his dad. When he was only 14 years old, he won a scholarship to art school. And then he began working as an interior decorator and designing murals for the insides of buildings, so decorating the insides of buildings. Later, he became a painter where he stopped painting on murals and he started painting canvases. This is one of his paintings. It's called Portrait of Adele, a portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer. And it has a really interesting story behind it. There's a whole movie about it and how this painting was basically stolen from the family who owned it and how the family got the painting back from the Austrian government. When they got it back, they were able to sell the painting, and the painting at auction sold for $135 million. Can you believe that? That's a lot of money. And this painting is not too far from where we are. This painting is in New York City, and when the gallery opens back up, it's called the Neue Gallery. You could go and see this painting in person. I hear it's spectacular. It's on my list of things to do one day. Then you're going to watch this video to learn a little bit more about Gustav Klimt and the Tree of Life. That's another one we're going to use as inspiration. And you're going to take a look, after you watch the video, you're going to take a look and take a deeper dive into this picture. You're going to think, what do I see? How does it make me feel? What colors do I see? What shapes do I see? Okay. What kind of lines do I see? Wavy, spiral, curved, straight. Okay. Then you're going to go back in your journal and you're going to draw some of these lines and shapes that you see in Mr. Gustav Klimt's work. This is Lena Iris Viktor. So I am really trying these days to incorporate more contemporary artists to inspire you from people who are living. So if you're not inspired by Gustav Klimt from Austria, you know, this guy who's been dead since 1918, sorry, Gustav, you might be more inspired by this woman, Lena Iris Viktor, who's living right now and making art and selling art and making a living off of her art. She is British and Liberian. Liberia is a country in Africa, I believe, and Britain is part of, like, she lives in London. She lives and works in New York and London. She makes art lots of different ways. She's a photographer and a sculptor and a painter, and she also uses gold in her art. Maybe next week we'll compare and contrast Lena Viktor and Gustav Klimt. She describes her work as queenly self-portraits with a futuristic edge. And this is one of her pieces of work. Now, interestingly enough, this right here is a painting, and this is a photograph of Lena herself with a really super fabulous blue wig standing in front of one of her paintings. So you want to think to yourself, what do I see? How does it make me feel? What colors do I see? What lines and shapes do I see? And then again, go back and just real quick draw maybe some of the, like, maybe you really like this kind of zigzaggy line and try, add that line to your line page, or a line that you like. Maybe you like this repeated curved line here, and add some shapes too. This is called syzygy. Syzygy. Love it. All right, when you're done adding some lines and shapes inspired by Klimt and Viktor, you're going to go and you're going to think about these questions. What elements of art did you learn about? And there'll be a drop-down menu where you can click off which elements of art did you learn about today. What did you learn about the art or the artist? So when you answer this question, you would say, I learned, and if you say, I learned about Lena Viktor, that would be a good start, but not quite enough. I learned that Lena Viktor makes her art by painting and then taking a picture of herself in front of her art. That might be something that you might want to write. How did you practice your art? How did you make your art? So when you answer this question, I want you to think about art verbs like draw, paint, sculpt, cut, collage. So did you draw? Did you paint today? What did you draw or paint with? And what did you paint or draw? So it might be like, oh, I painted apples with a paintbrush and some red paint. Or I drew, or I practiced lines and shapes with a pencil in my journal. Okay, so that might be a good answer to that question, just saying. Next week, we will review what we learned this week. We'll also start a drawing inspired by Klimt and or Viktor. You will need a pencil and a black marker or a crayon. You will also need a big blank piece of thick paper. If you don't have art paper, a cut up dark brown paper bag will work well. All right, friends, it has been my pleasure to introduce Gustav Klimt and Lena Viktor to you today and to talk with you a little bit about line and shape. And I can't wait to continue this project with you. I hope you have, oh, I forgot one slide. So if you want to share with me, the way that you get credit for this project is filling out your Google form. But if you want to share a picture of what you did, you can snap a pic, share it with me through Schoology, or if your parents have Twitter or Instagram, or if you have Twitter and Instagram, you can share that with me as well. I'm Mrs. Gordon _art. So again, all that stuff I just said, I love doing this project with you. Can't wait to see you next time and continue this project. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe, friends.